You want to know the number one thing that retains employees at companies? It's not benefits, it's not opportunities for advancement, it's not even pay and salary. It's the people. And whether you would like to stay in your current position for the next 10 years or just the next 6 months, work is easier when we actually enjoy the people we see every day. And to enjoy them means we need to have some good relationships with them. So today we're talking all about how to make those happen. Welcome to the Creating Opportunities podcast. This is the place where we help smart, ambitious professionals build authentic relationships for success in all areas of their lives. Why? Because people matter. They're messy, but they matter. I'm Cassandra, your host, a speaker, a trainer, an iced coffee lover, and I'm here to help you make deeper connections. Okay, so a little behind the scenes. Every episode of this podcast is created from a mix of my own experience and also, of course, research I've done on this topic. And the way we're going to go about this today is very different from the articles and research I found out there in the world. People either had these very easy step-by-steps that are helpful, but we're like, say hi again, okay? We'll get into some of that tactical stuff. Or they were just very general tips that were kind of nebulous that just said things like, use active listening or focus on others. And you're like, well, yeah, but how, right? So it went one or the other. So we're gonna do a little mix of both. And I also wanna bring in one more element. If you are the person who builds good relationships at work, you are seen as a leader. So here are the three main things we're covering today. First, we're going to talk about what you can do to build better relationships overall and showcase that leadership experience at the same time. Then we'll cover how to even start building those relationships, the one-on-one relationships with those few people you want to go deeper with. I think everyone should have some sort of work friend. They don't have to be your best friend, but we need somebody we're close to. And finally, we'll end on some key guiding principles that are just helpful in relationship building in the workplace. It's really just two key best practices that I want to make sure we put out there. But before we get into it, I want to give you a reminder. Not all relationships are created equal. So when I'm saying we need to build better relationships at work, I am not saying we need to make everyone at work our new BFF. No. What I'm hoping for is to help you create a pleasant place to go and that you will have a group of people that you feel closer with and at least one person that you feel like a stronger connection with. You have a confidant you can go to when you need deeper help with something. And if you're a business owner or an online entrepreneur who's listening to this, you can still adapt the things we're going to talk about into your situation as well. Okay, so to build better relationships overall at work while signifying, hey, I'm a leader, here are some simple things you can do. Number one, don't turn me off when I say this, hear me out. You need to say good morning. We need to say good morning. It is so simple, but it sets a tone. It sets a tone that you are a friendly, likable person. So if you're in an office, you're gonna come in the morning and say good morning as you're going down the hall, right? I worked in a place where we did this. Like everyone when they came in would kind of go, good morning, as you walk down the hall. Now we were an office of like 10 people and I said it to the people on the way to my desk. You didn't like have to make the rounds of 50 cubicles or if you're in a shared workspace, right? Not that, but just some sort of greeting. Okay? Honestly, this matters because it really does come off as likable and approachable, and those are things that people want in a leader. It also subtly signifies to people that they can get to know you. You're open to talking in some way. And I will be honest, I had one person join that workplace I was at where we had the culture of good morning, and this person would come in the morning and they would go straight to their office and shut their door. Like 6 weeks of being like, what the heck? Do they even want to work here? And you would say good morning and they wouldn't even say good morning back. I'm not for this. Like this does not come off well. They might be shy and introverted, but you need to be friendly. Let me just put it this way. It was doing them no favors. So even if you don't want to have best friendships with anyone in your office, we want to be seen as a friendly person at work. So say good morning. Okay, the next one to build better relationships and gain leadership, recognize others. So I did a whole other video on how to give recognition, why recognition is important. But for the sake of this video and this episode, people like those people who recognize them. So if if you're the person who's saying, hey, I saw that work you did yesterday, that was really impressive, or thank you so much for staying a little bit later yesterday to help me with that project, or even, oh my gosh, I was about to be so late for that meeting, thank you for helping me unjam the printer or the copier. Even that is recognition of saying, thanks for helping me out. It goes far. So when I'm talking about recognizing others, this could be anybody. It could be your boss. It could be the head of the company. It could be somebody who's unilateral with you. It could be somebody below you. Everyone wants to be recognized. Now, granted, you don't need to come at your boss like, there's a way, I'm trying to think of how to say it. There's a way to do it where you don't sound like you think you're above them, like, hey man, thanks so much for that. But even saying, hey, I just want you to know I really appreciate the way you listened to me in that meeting yesterday. I've had managers before who didn't give me that time and listening ear, and so I just want you to know I really appreciate you. Yeah, they're gonna like that, and they're gonna start paying attention to you. At the very least, this is just a really nice thing to do, right? Again, we always want to go with care, lead with care. So recognizing people is a way to care about them, but there are some benefits that reciprocally, wow, that's not a word, but I'm making it a word. Reciprocally, it does make them like you more since you're the one who recognized them, and it shows you're confident in your own abilities. You're not sitting there like afraid to give someone else their due because you think it'll take away from you. No, you're like, I know what I'm good at. I know I do good work. I have no problem sharing how other people do good work too. That's a quality of a leader. Okay, so the last thing you can do to have better work relationships overall and show that leadership is be the group gatherer. Here's the thing, those who can bring people together are natural leaders. So if you're the one who goes, hey everyone, who wants to get lunch together today? Or hey, on Thursday I'm thinking of doing a happy hour at that bar across the street. Are you in? Are you in? Do you want to come? You're a leader. And you're building better relationships. People are happy that you invited them along. You're getting to know those coworkers better. Again, you don't have to do this every week. They don't all have to become your best friend, but it's going to create a more pleasant environment for you at work. So be the group gatherer. Okay, so now we need to talk about those people who you do want to build a one-on-one relationship with. And again, this doesn't have to be everybody. What I have found is just having one person at work that you feel like you can just talk to is helpful. They don't need to know everything about you. You don't need to give all your family history or behind the scenes drama, but if you've had this person before, you know what I'm talking about. So now I am gonna give that simple tip that Harvest Business Review gave. Say hi, there's number one, but it's gonna go deeper than that. Just start paying attention to the person you want to get to know. Say hi to them in the morning, or when you say good morning everyone, you go by their office and say good morning, how was your weekend? Which goes to point number 2, give little reach outs. So things like specifically going to them and saying, hey, how was your weekend? Or, hey, how was that trip you just took? Or, oh, you said you were gonna try that restaurant over the weekend. How was it? It's going to go far. You're starting those basic relationship building steps. This sounds very common sense, but sometimes we don't do it. So take that little step and go ask them some questions. If you're a remote worker, another thing you can do, and you don't have to be remote for this, but send them a meme or GIF over Slack that you think they'd find funny. Maybe it's about something that you caught eyes in a meeting together, or it relates to something they wrote the day before. It's an olive branch to them, right? See if you can kind of give them this olive branch, and if they take it and if they say lol or they write something back, it's gonna be part of this process. Now, here's where I also want to make a caveat. I have people who love to say, I hate small talk. If we can't go deep, I don't want any of it. I'm not gonna go deep with you if I've barely had conversations with you, because we need to build this thing called, what is it now? Trust. Yeah, we need to build trust first. So yes, first you have to start with the silly, simple things like, how was your weekend? What'd you have for dinner last night? Or asking them about some snack they're eating, right? Like, you gotta start simple and then you can go deep. And yes, this is the step where it does require you to go out of your way and maybe out of your comfort zone just a little bit. This next step is going a little bit deeper than that. Third thing, you want to check in. So stop by their desk or hit them up on Slack. Now, granted, we don't have to do all these steps in the same day. Do them over a week, do them over 2 weeks. But stop by their desk when you need a break from your office for a second. You go by their office, and as long as you are polite and you are mindful of what they have going on, you are not being intrusive. Sometimes this feels intrusive. You are not being intrusive to stop by their desk, stand in their doorway and say, hey, I just need a break for a second. Do you have a minute? How are you doing? Or, what's going on? What are you working on today? Be mindful of time. Now, I will be honest, I have some old coworkers who could be watching this and or listening to this and go, oh my gosh, no, Cassie, you would sit in my office for like 20 minutes. I'm not saying that, don't be me, but we also had a lax workspace. They could have kicked me out. Anyway, be mindful of time, but just check in, stop by, or go on Slack and say, let's say you're remote, go on Slack and say, hey, I just need a break for a second. How are you doing? What are you up to? And you could even say on that, if I'm interrupting your busy work, just ignore me. That's fine. Same if you go to their desk, right? If they're on their phone, if they're in a meeting, obviously we're not stopping by and asking anything. If they aren't that way, you can say, hey, do you have a second? I just wanted to have a little break and chat. They can say, oh, I'm actually really busy in the middle of a project. Give them that opportunity. It's okay. But you're not being intrusive. You're being a friendly, caring person who wanted to have interest in another person, so it's totally fine. Okay, so before we continue on with more steps of how to build these one-on-one relationships, this is the stopping point. At this point, if you have not gotten reciprocity on these first things you've done, we might need to move on to a different person. Now, I'm not saying it has to be tit for tat. No relationship is completely equal, right? So I'm not saying you should sit there and be like, well, I said hi to them yesterday and they didn't say hi to me today. Or, I stopped by their desk and they never stopped by my desk. But have they done any sort of reciprocity with you where they checked in on you one day or they sent you a Slack message, right? If that's happened, now we move deeper. So next couple of things you can do is invite them to lunch, right? Or invite them to go walk with you to the coffee shop across the street, or, even if there's an event at your office place or your campus, right? Any of those things, let them know, hey, I'm gonna go to this event. Are you gonna go? Or do you wanna come with me? Or are you gonna go? We could walk together. Those little things are going to start creating a bond between you. Now, we don't need to exclude people. If other people in the office are going to, have them walk too, but that's the person you're asking. That's gonna signify, I want a better relationship with you. One of my old colleagues at a past job, Danielle, she sent me a meme the other day. We haven't worked together in almost 3 years. She sent me a meme the other day that was about oh, everyone has that coworker. That made it sound negative, but it was something about everyone has that coworker who gets to work and goes, hey, let's go get coffee. And that was me. She goes, I miss our coffee walks because we had a coffee bean across the street. And so about 3 times a week, I would drop my stuff and then go, okay, who wants to go get a coffee? We want to walk across the street. And she would go. So it was our little thing. And we still have a relationship because of simple coffee walks. Okay, last thing to get that business confidant, that close friend at work. And this one is the hard one. This was the one where it's gonna go deeper, and I will be honest, it's a bit of a risk. To deepen a relationship, any relationship, honestly, you have to take a bit of a calculated risk and show some vulnerability. Again, not with everyone. And vulnerability does not mean you have to share the biggest thing you're going through in your life and just spill it on that person, right? But it's letting someone know, yeah, I really struggled in that meeting we had yesterday. Or letting them know, yeah, I'm struggling with the idea of going back in the office because I really enjoy my time at home with my kids, right? Something like that. The reason why you have to do this is because if you open up, then you're giving them permission to open up. And so this is where you have to see, I'm gonna take this risk and let's see how it's received. Are they gonna take it? Are they gonna share back? They might not share back in that moment. It's not like when one person's vulnerable, the whole world has to now go, okay, let me share all my stuff too. But how do they take what you're saying? How do they receive it? I will be honest here. We have all been burned, okay? We have been burned on this before. I have been burned on this before. But if you don't do this step, trust doesn't get built. Relationships don't get to go further. And so if there's a person you really want to get to know better, there is going to be a point where you have to kind of open up a little bit so that you can see how you're received and build that relationship. and deepen that relationship. Okay, finally, let's talk about 2 guiding principles that are going to help you build better relationships. Number 1, remember what they said. Oh my gosh, this sounds so simple, but this drives me crazy. I do not like wasting my breath. I am not saying you have to remember everything I've ever said ever if we're work friends, but if I've told you 5 times, no, I'm not gonna go to that event. No, I'm not gonna go to that event. And then one day you go, oh, are you gonna go to that event? Why am I wasting my breath, right? It gets really frustrating. It feels like, are you listening to me? Do you care about me? Do you pay attention to what I'm saying? Or are you just in your own head? So again, you don't have to remember absolutely everything that someone said ever. That's impossible. But pay attention when people are talking. Remember what they said. And important things, right, too, like remember their kids' names, their spouses' names. Pay attention to where they said they went on vacation or where they plan on going to vacation. Simple things like that are going to help you have better relationships because it shows you care. You were paying attention to what they were talking about. And then the final one, this is like a no duh, we all know it, but it needs to be said. Don't gossip. Here's my thing with this. Every book on professionalism under the sun has said don't gossip. And it's one of those things that you read and you go, I know this, I won't do it. But let's be real. In the workplace, it's actually very hard. It's the rule we all know, but it can be very tempting to do. Very tempting. And here's what I'd say about it. There is a difference between being critical of situations going on at work and talking to a trusted coworker around a situation, or talking about, hey, that thing that happened yesterday, I don't really like how that happened, or the way so-and-so spoke to me, I didn't really enjoy that. What do you think about that? Am I being sensitive, right? That's not gossip. Gossip is, well, did you hear so-and-so sleeping with so-and-so? Okay, those are different things. So one I think is okay in specific groups with specific people. The other should never be done. Stay out of office gossip. And let's be real, it's hard because gossip can be bonding, but I would rather you bond over talking about and acknowledging hardships at work or things you're working through or things you don't like that you want to fix. Keep it positive. Don't just become negative Nellies the whole time, rather than going into the territory of gossip. So again, like I said at the beginning, some of this is common sense, but it does mean it's common practice. So let me know below in the comments, which of these steps are you gonna do? Are you just gonna say hi to somebody? Are you going to become a good morning person? Let me know in the comments. And if you wanna learn more about how to give great recognition and why it matters, you can go watch this video next. I'll also put it in the show notes if you're just listening to this, and I will see you over there. Bye.